Gold and white writing on a purple and gold background reads A Conversation with Priya Ramasubban, presented in partnership between the Paul K. Longmore Institute on Disability and the Asian Art Museum.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to really thank the Asian Art Museum for such a wonderful program. This is really moving, and to have this film showcased, I think exhibits just the wonderful depth of stories that we find in our community. So I wanted to start, if I may, tell us about this story. I mean, in the ending credits, we learned that it's loosely based on the story of Sonam. But how did you come to come across this story, and how did you develop it into the story of Chuskit?
This film is inspired by my sister's work in Ladakh. She lived there for about 10 years, sending children to school, asking the community for their ideas of how to be inclusive towards children who were normally excluded. And Sonam Spalzis was the first child that she helped get to school. And then after that, many other children went to school. So it's a sort of inspired by that, but not exactly Sonam's story. But the last bridge, the last scenes where they built the bridge, that's actually what happened for Sonam. The whole community came together and built that bridge. A lot of other elements in the story are made up, but yes, Sonam was born with cerebral palsy. So it wasn't that she fell and had an accident, but that's storytelling. But yes, it's inspired by my sister's work there.
How did you come to choose to set it in the Himalayas with a community that spoke Ladakhi? We have a minority community in India here.
Yes, because the original work happened in Ladakh. And so I felt there were some things that I was very, very certain that I had to keep true to the story. And also I'm interested in cultures that are not mainstream cultures, viewed by other cultures. When they think about India, they think about Punjab and paneer tikka, chicken tikka masala type of thing, and that's sort of like a too broad a brushstroke for any culture. So I wanted to make sure that there was some sort of anthropological stance that I took in the film.
Wow. And so are all the actors and actresses, especially the really, really wonderful Jigmet who plays Chuskit, are they all from the community? I mean, they show some depth that it's amazing to think that this wasn't a nationwide screening call.
No, actually, so Vidya, my sister, because she lived in Ladakh for 10 years, she worked a lot with schools, educationists, and all of that, educators. I don't know what the right word is. So there was a gentleman who used to work with theater in schools. His name is Katsetan Wangchuk. And he knew a lot of kids, and he did theater workshops in schools. So he was very involved in the film. And so when we told him that we wanted to look for young children to cast in the film, he just put the word out. And the story of how we found Chuskit is very interesting. Jigmet for Chuskit is very interesting. So we had about many kids, more than probably 40, 50 kids who showed up for the casting. And we had said that what we wanted them to do is to, they've just come back from school and their mom brings them a snack, and it's not a snack that she likes. And so she has to react. And that was the screen test. And most of the kids were like, no, I don't want this. And, they vocalized and verbalized and stomped and all of that. And Jigmet when her turn came, this person brought a bowl and she looks at it and she just looks up at the mother and she takes her elbow and she just nudges it and she looks away. And I said, that's her, that's her. That's who we want. We want that gumption. We want her to show her emotions without words, because that's what we needed for the film. And she is brilliant.
Yeah, the dynamics with the grandfather are particularly nice.
Yes, to get that rapport, we did a 3-day workshop. I had an acting coach with me. Her name is Shruti Sridharan. And so she would just take the two of them off, and they would sit. He would tell her his childhood stories. He would sing her a lullaby, teach her a lullaby, yeah, while he was sitting on a hammock. And she would sing it back to him with Shruti there to facilitate this. So that bond of what a grandfather and grandchild should have had to be there so that they could break it in the film.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But she wasn't disabled herself. And so how did she manage to get that range of expression as well?
Because she's brilliant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we had, because my sister has worked with people with disabilities, we had PAGIR, which is People's Action Group for Inclusion and Rights, people from there who were there, and we consulted people. How could the leg move? Could it move? Could it not? What we needed to do. So Vidya was keeping a very firm eye on what the body movements can and cannot be.
I was wondering, your inclusion of religion was also very interesting too. I mean, the with Buddhism, and then you had the sand mandalas and the impermanence of the sand mandalas, but then you also had the doctor who both represented modernity, but he's Dr. Ahmad. So, we suspect he might be Muslim. So could you talk a bit about some of those themes of religion?
I don't like binaries, and I strive to sort of show a mirror to people based on their stereotypes, so that you could look in the mirror and say, that's a stereotype I made up. Or that society is just doing this and I'm, falling in line. And so writing the story, I was very aware that wherever I could, I would break those stereotypes, those binaries of modern versus traditional, Buddhism versus Islam. We think one is a very kind religion, accepting. One is a very harsh religion, in terms of the general stereotype that people who are not immersed in those cultures express themselves like that about these religions and about gender, man and woman, older generation, younger generation, all of that. There's some element of truth to all our stereotypes, but that's all there is, some element. And that element can be transposed into any other stereotype and it might fit.
I thought you just did that brilliantly throughout. Dr. Ahmad is presented very kindly, but he's also not in opposition to the village healer. The grandfather, we soon begin to suspect that he's the foil, the nemesis, but he has both an incredible soft side, and we realize that with his transistor radio, he is actually in some ways more in touch with the outside world than we might suspect. And then that ending scene where Chuskit is like, I wish I had gotten to know you better, I think ties that all together really nicely.
Thank you. I'm so glad you got all of those nuances. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I thought maybe, one of the things that for me in disability studies is, we always talk about the social model and just how important the built environment is. And I think you did that so carefully through, just showing that um, how she might be able to move around the village, right? Through on the backs of her mother, and then her brother and father, um, and some of the complications that might bring. And then even though Dr. Ahmed brings them a wheelchair, that without further amelioration, without her brother building the wheelchair lift, without them working on the village, that a wheelchair alone is not enough. And I think there are so many charities that are just about, hey, let's send a wheelchair to X country, and then they forget about it. And this shows that, no, we need that infrastructure.
Right. So generally, when I talk to audiences in the West, I say in the West, systems work, and in countries like ours, people work. So you have systems in place there that would say, okay, if this has to happen, this has to happen, that has to happen, and the government will come in, or the local nonprofit will have a set plan that can be just rolled out because it's modular, those countries. Whereas it's very dynamic here, everything is different, every community is different. In that way, we're very inclusive in that everybody lives the way they envision their own little microcosmic societies, but at the same time, they're not thinking about the larger issues that stay on the periphery. So because being disabled is a minority, or because being a transgender is a minority, because being of a certain minority religion or race is a minority, those people are always on the periphery. And everything is made to adjust for people in the mainstream by the people, but not by the system. So therefore, for me, it was important that people started viewing themselves in countries like mine, started viewing themselves as part of the process, and not just, this is what the government will do.
I agree. And I think within the disability community, we talk a lot about interdependence, that this prior sort of emphasis on just going it alone isn't the solution, that we are all, everyone, even able-bodied people, are connected to other people and depend on other people.
Yes, and I'm a firm believer in interdependence. I don't value independence as much. Not to say that I don't think it's something to aspire to, but I think it can also be very lonesome and very sort of a me versus them. Whereas when we are interdependent, not losing our individuality, but not emphasizing our, the word is not emphasizing, not asserting our independence, then we can all move forward together in a much more sort of complex, nuanced, and understanding, empathetic way.
Yeah, and that the family in Asian families is so important and can often be framed as this thing that drags us behind. But it's also the basis of love and support. And when we remember that, we can realize that, yes, this is why the family is important.
Yes, I mean, and that is the microcosm of the universe that we are brought into. And we keep using the word family in that very sort of 0 to 18, and then you're off kind of way in the West. But no, it's a lifelong thing, So yes, and it's not just the family and the extended unit of the family and the extended unit of the community and all of that.
Yeah, I liked how Dr. Ahmed called the grandfather uncle and everyone else uncle. And it, in village life, it is that way. We all call each other's uncles and aunties and have that feeling of connectivity that we may not be connected by blood, but we are connected. We are all kin in some way.
Yes, and in fact, my children, when we go to the grocery store, they call the person, if they're old enough to be your mom's younger brother or older brother, or mom's younger sister or older sister, then it's uncle. If they're old enough to be your grandfather or grandmother's this thing, then they're grandma and grandpa.
Mhm.
And if they're in between your age and your mom's age, then you are brother
Uh-huh.
or sister. So by doing that, we are telling them we are part of a larger community, but at the same time, not giving those people enough license to take over, our children's thoughts. But there's a gentle balance over there.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Director Priya. I so enjoyed our conversation. This film was absolutely, as you can tell, I was very much in love with it. And thank you so much for bringing these stories into the world. I'm looking forward to your future stories.
Thank you. I am working on a film right now about a mother whose teenage son is being diagnosed with a mental illness. So it's a story of the mother, but not the child. Of the child as well, but the mother mostly. So hopefully, when I finish writing it, I'll be able to get funding and make that film and bring it to everybody in the world.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Thank you. And is there anybody in the audience who wants to ask a question, or
We haven't enabled the chat. Since we had such a very short period of time, and I'm very sorry to guests that we don't have the opportunity to do that. But thank you for your generosity of sharing your film with us. Karen, fantastic questions, and Priya, a phenomenal film. It was sweet and moving and really thought-provoking. I bet all of us in the audience were like, why don't they remove the rocks and make the path smooth? I was getting into like problem solving, and I was glad they did that. So thank you. Please share your next film with us, and think of us and
maybe I'll share it even before it's made, so you can all help me make it.
Fantastic. We love sharing films, rough cuts, and sometimes having dialogue with, and that time we can definitely make it so we can have conversation with the community as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to all the audience who watched it patiently for an hour and a half. And yes, I hope you take away something from the film.
And I want to really deeply thank our ASL interpreters, Annie, Cheryl, and Lisa, our CART provider, and of course, Emily from Longmore, and John O'Shea, my trusty AV manager here. I couldn't do it without him, and Allison Wyckoff. Thank you all. It takes our village as well. Thank you, Priya. Have a good day over there in India. Bye-bye. Thank you, Karen. Bye.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Purple and Gold writing on a purple and gold background reads, thank you for watching. Please follow us on social media, on Facebook at SFSU Disability, on Twitter at LongmoreInst, or online at longmoreinstitute.sfsu.edu.